Good morning. Did you all hear that Chap Jose had a baby? Everybody hear about that? Actually, it was his wife that had the baby. But congratulations to the Bourget family with the addition of Have. She has 4 names, and I don't remember them all, but I do remember the first one is Have. She and Mama are doing well, so many, many congratulations to Chap Jose. Job well done. Yes, good start, good start. I want to read to you something from the book of Acts, chapter 17. And the scene is this. There's a guy by the name of Paul. He planted a whole bunch of churches in the first century AD. He was a pioneering Christian church planter. And he's in the process of doing this. He's traveling with some other people like Silas and Timothy. His friends go off to another spot, and Paul is waiting to regroup with them. And he's in a city called Athens, which, of course, we still know today. They're in Greece. Here's what it says, Acts 17, verse 16. It says, "While Paul was waiting for them in Athens, he was greatly distressed to see that the city was full of idols." So these are images, different gods, cast, silver, wood, etc., that are all there. He says, "So he reasoned in the synagogue with the Jews and the God-fearing Greeks, as well as in the marketplace day by day with those who happened to be there. A group of Epicurean and Stoic philosophers began to dispute with him. Some of them asked, 'What is this babbler trying to say?' Others remarked, 'He seems to be advocating foreign gods.' They said this because Paul was preaching the good news about Jesus and the resurrection. They took him and they brought him to a meeting of the Areopagus, where they said to him, 'May we know what this new teaching is that you are presenting? You are bringing some strange ideas to our ears, and we want to know what they mean.' All the Athenians and the foreigners who lived there spent their time doing nothing but talking about and listening to the latest ideas." So, notice what Paul says here. He's called before, these are the smartest people in that region, highly educated. Paul is called to this meeting to defend Christ. Paul then stood up in the meeting of the Areopagus and said, "Men of Athens, I see that in every way you are very religious. For as I walked around and looked carefully at your objects of worship, I even found an altar with this inscription, 'To an unknown God.'" Let's just make sure that we understand what's happening here. To an unknown God, it said. And notice who the inscription is who made this inscription. These are the elite, the Epicureans, the Stoic philosophers. These are highly educated people. Most likely they are wealthy. They are probably leaders in Athens, perhaps even elsewhere. This also may have been a destination for other scholars to come. Kind of this scholarly tourism. They would come there. The Areopagus was relatively famous. They would gather and they would just discuss all of these ear-tantalizing ideas. And then Paul shows up and he goes on a little tour. And he sees all these shrines in Athens, and lo and behold, there is one that says, "To an unknown God." Now, do you understand just how ridiculous that is? Here are these highly educated, intelligent people, all gathered here in one place, and it's almost as though one day, a couple of them were going through and said, "Okay, well, we've got this God, and we've got that God, and we've got this altar and that shrine. I think we've got our bases covered, but what if we don't? What if there is something that the gods want us to be doing, but we're not doing it?" And maybe the conversation went something like this. Well, how would we know how to appease that type of situation? They said, "Well, I don't know. Well, I don't know either. I've got it. We'll make a shrine to an unknown God. That'll just kind of cover everything, right?" And so they did it. And apparently, it uses the word altar here. This is an altar with this inscription on it. Now, at the very least, that meant there was incense probably that was burnt on it. It may have even been a site of actual sacrifice of some sort. All done to, quote, "an unknown God." And I can guarantee you that God was just as unknown to them after they had performed their rites and rituals and sacrifices, etc., as that God was unknown before they did it. And we sit here and we look back at people like that 2,000 years ago, and we say, how on earth could people live like that, making sacrifices to an unknown God? Let me tell you a story. Some of you know that back in the last millennium, in the early 90s, I was a student missionary. I went to the island of Ponape. If you don't know where Ponape is, you leave LA, you go to Hawaii, go another 900 miles or so, and if you're headed generally westerly direction, you'll probably land somewhere close to Ponape. Ponape is a lush tropical island. It's a beautiful spot. It's about 400 inches of rain that it gets in the upper parts of the island there. And all that rain means that there's a lot of beautiful waterfalls on the island. Now, I went there to teach elementary school. I ended up teaching high school, a bunch of different classes. We worked hard. We worked long hours. The only times that we would generally get off work, other than Sabbath, and even then that was usually very busy, was on Sunday, late morning, early afternoon. If you got your classroom all in order for Monday in the morning on Sunday, great. You could get together with other student missionaries and you could go out and have fun in the various places around the island. So it was a Sunday when this story took place. Some friends and I went to one of these gorgeous waterfalls. And as most waterfalls are on Ponape, you have to hike to get there. In those days, the road system was fairly primitive, and once you left the immediate village and town there, the road got pretty rough. And so we parked a ways off, and we hiked in. I wish I remembered the name. Those of you that have been to Ponape more recently, maybe you can come up afterwards and tell me what you think the name of the falls was. Maybe it was Kapinga Falls, Soquez Falls, I don't remember. But it was large. And we came out around the top there of the waterfall. And, at first the waterfall goes kind of off the edge like this on this gentle arc over here, and you can't quite see. Then you climb down the side and like, oh, this is awesome. This is awesome. And we get down to the bottom. There's this giant lagoon here where the waterfall is dumping into. And I look up and immediately I think, I am going to jump off of this waterfall. It's one of my favorite things to do. If there's water and there is altitude, I want to be there. I want to jump off into it. Now, I'm not insane. I had a friend once that jumped off a 300-foot bridge. That's a bad idea. Don't do that. But less than 80 feet, 70 feet, right in that range, this is good times. This waterfall, I'm going to guess, was probably 60, 65 feet tall. And I'm looking at it and I think, okay, this is going to be good. Not wanting to be foolish about this. The water is this kind of deep green. You couldn't see to the bottom. And so I found a long branch, 10, 12 feet long, and I sat on the edge of the pool, and I fished around in there, and I got on the other side, fished around, making sure there's no rocks that I'm going to hit when I dive into this thing. And I didn't find any rocks, and so I make my ascent. I go up the side of the waterfall, I climb up there, it's kind of wet and slippery and whatnot. I go up on the side. Now, I'm not going all the way to the top, because up there at the top, it slopes back too much, and the odds of me being able to jump and clear all of the rocks below and make it to the pool were kind of low. So I stopped at about, I'm going to say, the 45, 50-foot mark. And I stepped up to the edge, and I got my feet there, and I am scanning down there. I'm looking to make sure, okay, where's the rocks? How far do I need to jump to hit the middle? Where not to jump, this kind of a thing. And I think I've got this thing mapped out in my brain. My friends are down at the riverbank down below, and I'm about ready. So I reach up, and I take my glasses off. Okay. Now, funny thing, can't see real well without glasses. I think legally blind is 2400 vision. I think that's right. And I have about half that. So I'm about half legally blind without my glasses. And that's why I'm sitting here memorizing this stuff, because I didn't have any way to keep my glasses on, and I didn't want to lose them in the bottom of the pool. And so I have this kind of memorized in my brain, and I take my glasses off, I set them on the rock, and I called out, I said, ready? And all my friends are like, ready? And I bend down, and I launch out there. Now, some people, their first try might have tried to do a couple of flips or a gainer or something like that. I'm just going to do this swan dive. I mean, I've got a little bit of width here with my arms. Okay, this is going to look cool. And it feels cool, too. I mean, this is the closest thing you can get to flying, right? This side of heaven. And so I jump off there, and this is poetry in motion. I mean, this is just artistry. Back is arched, feet are together, toes are pointed. I mean, I am flying out there, this beautiful, idyllic scene out there on that jungle island. And then, suddenly, out of nowhere, turns out there's a branch over that pool. And somehow with my glasses on, I had missed that there was a branch out there. And in my energy, trying to jump out far enough so I knew that I was going to clear the rocks down below, I had not seen this branch sticking directly out across this pool. And of course, because I'm half blind, this is all coming at me very quickly. It takes a while to tell, but obviously I am falling now through the air, and I see this coming at, oh, that's a branch. And instinctively, I duck my head, and blessedly, it missed my head, but it hit my shoulders. And now what was once this beautiful swan dive is now kind of like a wounded turkey trying to make a landing down below, right? And I am flailing like, oh, don't go on my back. Don't go on my, please, I don't want to land on my back. Because from that height, man, you will feel that for weeks afterwards if you do that. The next year, a girl jumped off of it, and they had to take her out in an ambulance, okay? And so I am flying through the air, very, very awkwardly, scrambling, trying to make sure that I'm going to hit the water at least some semblance of head first. I come down, I hit the water, and I hit it at such an angle, it actually sucked both of my shoes off. I had these river shoes on, these kind of high-top river shoes, old beat-up shoes, so you can go on river walking and whatnot, and it sucked both of them off. They're all floating on the surface. And instinctively, I tuck under, and I come back up out of the water there, and I go, yeah! This is a testosterone moment for those of you that don't understand what was happening there. This is like, yes, I made it. I lived. Right. And you know what the next thing I thought of? Let's do that again. Let's do that again. Because now I know where the branch is, right? I know where that branch is. We're going to miss it this time, right? And I did. I did it 2 or 3 times more after that and did miss the branch. I figured out, fixed my error or whatnot. It was awesome. And here's the thing. If you had asked my friends after that day, so friends, how was the trip to the waterfall? Oh, it was nice. The water was nice, and the flowers were pretty, and the birds were pretty, and yeah, it was a nice day. And then if you had asked me about it, Shane, what did you think about the trip? How was the day? Oh, hey, the water was great, and the birds sounded good, and the flowers were pretty. And man, that waterfall was awesome. That was incredible. You should have seen it, man. I went up there, and this branch tried to mug me, and I made it through, and I went back up, and I did 2, 3. It was awesome. Because you see, unlike my friends, I dove in. My friends stayed on the shore. They just watched. They watched other people do other things. They sat there and they spectated. But I dove in, head first, off the ledge, no reserve, no retreat, out into the great unknown. And because of that, I didn't just go to the water that day. I lived it. I lived it. And it made all the difference in the world. And what does this have to do with Paul and the Areopagus in Acts 17? Well, just this. The fact of the matter is that most people, and let me just narrow the field a little bit more. Most Christians have a common complaint. And I would say it's even more common in this setting. I've done young adult ministry of some sort or another for almost 3 decades now. Camp meetings, retreats, seminars, conference, youth work, young adult work, all of these things. I've done this for almost 3 decades now. And throughout that time, there has been a complaint, a concern. I had it when I was a young adult. I've heard it here. I've heard it almost every place that I've been. And the concern, the complaint is this: God doesn't feel real to me. God doesn't feel real to me. I'm here on a Christian campus. I hear Christian things. Maybe I attend services someplace or whatnot. But God doesn't feel real to me. And if you're sitting here listening to this and you say, well, yeah, that's me. I get it. I understand it. And again, back in the day, that was my cry too. God doesn't feel real to me. But notice this carefully. And this is not criticism. This is simply what I have found to be the truth over the years, okay? One of the biggest reasons for too many people, one of the biggest reasons that it feels like God isn't real is because they're not doing anything real for Him. There's no experience that is taking place with them and with God. We don't do much that requires God these days. We don't do much that requires faith in Him. Think for a moment. What is happening in your life right now that can only be explained by the intervention of God? You see, we don't often go out on ledges for God. We don't often take appropriate risks for Him. Our lives instead are calculated to be very safe, very secure. Our career paths are all mapped out. I'm not opposed to planning. It's a good thing. You get your major and you map everything out and you think, okay, I'm going to do this internship and then this is going to happen. I'm going to get this job. I'm going to get married here. Whatever the plans are, you've got them all mapped out. Planning is fine unless you end up being so secure that you no longer need God. And of course, the truth is that's impossible. Everybody needs God. But sometimes we can get ourselves into a place when we don't feel that we need Him. And the fact that we have food on the table and clothes on our back and a job and a car in the driveway, we are tempted to believe that actually we don't need Him any longer. Too often we don't do anything that requires God, and naturally, because we treat God as though He is not real, God seems to us as though He is not real. And God is a gentleman. He will not come in where He's not wanted. He's not going to force His way into our lives. Instead, He watches and He waits and He longs to find out the answer to some questions. Will they trust me? God asks. Will they trust me? Will they do what I've created them to do? Will they trust me to take them on dangerous journeys? Will they trust me to be with them while they take risks for the sake of the gospel, while they push the boundaries of their comfort zones? Will they trust me and in so doing come to know me? Or will they continue to treat me as just another unknown God? Occasionally throwing a bone or some incense or a mild sacrifice to me, but not actually trusting me. I want to leave you with two challenges. Challenge number one, find some ways to share the good news about Jesus with others. Find some ways to share the good news about Jesus with others. There's a variety of faith backgrounds that are represented here at Andrews University. The majority of you are Christians. I just want to encourage you to be light where you are. Everybody has gifts. Everybody's given at least one spiritual gift, and I've never met someone who only had one. Everybody has been given gifts and passions by God, talents, etc., abilities. Find out ways that you can share Jesus with others. Maybe it's more implicit things. Maybe it's in explicit ways. Maybe it's on a short-term basis with some people. Maybe it's a long-term basis. Maybe it's a career change. Find what it is that God has gifted you to do and to be, and share Jesus through those things. The best thing that can happen to a human being is to know Jesus Christ. It's the best thing. And if you can help somebody else to know Jesus, man, there's nothing better. There's nothing better. And challenge number two, go overseas as a missionary. You say, well, that's fairly specific. Yeah, it is. It is. Go overseas as a missionary. Now, I'm not opposed to domestic mission trips. There are people that need our help right here in our own country. And there is something unique about going other places, where you are in a different culture, a different part of the world that is foreign to you, and you go there seeking to be the hands and the feet and, yes, the mouth of Jesus Christ. Go as an overseas missionary. You see, it's when we seek to share Christ with others, particularly in a context that is foreign to us, that we cross a line. It's called the line of faith. It's when we step out of our comfort zone that we find that we actually need God. We need His strength and His power and His Spirit. And when we ask for it, He sends it. Countless student missionaries, for instance, look back at their year abroad and they say, that was when I found Jesus. That was when I came to know Him. That's when He became real to me. Many times people look at the Christian church and they say something like this: the reason I am not more a part of Christianity is because all of the hypocrites I find inside. They say one thing, but they do another. You want to know the number one cure for hypocrisy is real Christianity. And the only way that you move into a real relationship with Jesus Christ is taking him at his word and following where he leads. Well, guess what? Jesus came that the world might know him. We are his hands. We are his feet. We are his mouthpiece. If you want to know Jesus, you need to be where Jesus is. Jesus is out there on the firing line, seeking to help other people to know him, that they might be ready for his soon coming kingdom. And if you go out there, if you step out to the ledge, if you take that leap of faith, if you go out and share your faith, whether it's here or if you take a year out as a student missionary, you will find your dependence upon Jesus becomes real, and he will come through. It's the hidden secret to maturity in Jesus Christ. Share him with other people, and you will grow in him. So I just want to ask you, what are you waiting for? Dive in. Dive in. Go see Tila at CFE when we leave here. Some of you have been feeling this voice kind of knocking in the back of your head for all year long there. Should I be a student missionary? Should I go over here? Should I do this? It might interrupt my program of study, et cetera, et cetera. We can work all that out. God is calling you, either here or someplace else, to share him with other people. Stop by, see Tila, stop by the chaplain's office. Tell them, hey, some crazy guy in chapel said that we ought to go someplace to share him. I don't know where I need to go, but can you help me? They'll help you. They'll help you. This is Andrews University. Jane Andrews was the first official missionary of the Seventh-day Adventist Church to go overseas. I think it's time that we reinvigorated that spirit all over again, and let it start with you. After all, why settle for serving an unknown God when you can know the real one? Let me pray with you. Jesus, the loudest cry of the human heart, whether we can put the right name on it or not, is to know you. You have said that this is eternal life, that we would know you, that we would have a deep and intimate relationship with you. Lord, if there are people here right now that are listening to my voice, that have been feeling your call to share you, to be a conduit for the good news of salvation in you, I pray, Lord, that today would be the day that they cross that line of faith, that they step out, that whether it's in the context of their dormitory or their house where they live with friends, co-workers, whatever it might be, if it's going overseas, if it's being a student missionary, taking that year out, or a short-term mission trip, Lord, if they're hearing that call, may they hear it even louder. May they not rest until they rest in you. We long to know you. May we live our lives in that quest to help others to know you, and in so doing, come to know you ourselves. This is our prayer, and we ask it in the name of Jesus. Amen.